Hey guys, Christopher Hein here. I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about threat level and threat level assessment and what that means. So a lot of times what people want to know when they ask about a martial arts system or a school of self-defense is how effective is this system or this school of self-defense. So that really boils down to you wanting to know how likely is this to improve my outcome in some kind of physical conflict. So it's a really complicated question. I can't give you a simple answer right now, but I can tell you the steps that you need to take to start to determine how effective something's going to be. So there's basically 4 things you want to know, or 4 things that will determine the outcome, right? 1 is threat level, what we're going to talk about right now. 2 is fortune, luck, right? So are things in your favor, not in your favor? 3 is the giant external factors, and 4 are the internal factors, and we'll talk about all those in separate videos. But right now we're going to talk a little bit about threat level assessment. So what is threat level? So conflict is just part of a relationship. That's an important thing to understand. All conflict is a part of relationship. And relationship has a ladder that goes all the way from love and great feelings at one side all the way down to hatred and the desire to hurt someone on the other side. So there's two sides to the spectrum of relationship, and physical conflict is when you get down to the bottom part of the negative side of relationship. So when something becomes physical, we feel like it's so intense that we can no longer keep it inside and we have to explode out, right? And this could be punching someone or grabbing someone or choking someone, some kind of action, some kind of negative action because I don't like the way someone else is being or they don't like me. And it escalates into physical conflict. Physical conflict has 4 kind of levels that I like to talk about it. And these 4 levels are determined by what my intent is when we go into physical conflict. And the first level is simply conflict play, what I call conflict play. Conflict play is when we're having some kind of conflict, but no one's very serious about hurting the other person, right? So it's become physical, but no one really wants to cause damage. A good hallmark of conflict play is if you were to hit someone and they go, oh, you immediately go, oh, I'm sorry, right? So, and this happens in relationships, it happens between siblings constantly, happens in grade school. There's conflict, but there's no real danger of anything because no one really wants to hurt anyone. They just can't keep their emotions bottled up anymore, and it comes out, and it kind of explodes out. And so this is what I would call conflict play. The next level is what I call threat level 1. Threat level 1 is more serious than conflict play. My intent is to cause pain to someone, usually, when we're talking about this. Threat level 1 is what you would see in most sport martial arts, right? Most sport martial arts go into threat level 1, which is I'm actually trying to damage another person, right? So when you see boxing or MMA or something like that, the intent is for one person to actually cause great pain to the other person. The intent is usually never to seriously damage them, but to cause pain and to show certain physical dominance, right? So in conflict play, you don't really have this idea of dominance so much as just this idea of I have to get this out of me. But when you're talking about threat level 1, there is a desire to physically dominate the other person. A lot of times I call this threat level also bravado fighting, right? And this is because it comes from trying to be brave or show off to other people, right? It happens a lot over bar stools or girls or bragging rights or something like that, right? So it's what a lot of young males like to participate in for a few years in life where they're trying to dominate the pack and show who the leader is. So threat level 1, that's basically no one wants to kill anyone. People do want to show definite physical dominance. And people want to cause pain in the other person, so the other person will leave them alone or acknowledge that they're physically superior. Then we go into threat level 2. Threat level 2 is what you see when we're basically still living in a civilized world, but someone wants something kind of uncivilized from you, right? So you see this in muggings. You see this in anytime that someone's doing some serious physical violence to someone, someone's abusing their wife, or it becomes a very serious situation where someone actually might kill someone else, right? So if someone broke into your house, you're in a threat level 2 situation, right? So you're probably going to hurt them to get them out of your house if that's what it takes, intensely hurt them, and they probably broke into your house to get something from you that they would be willing to hurt you for. That's why they broke into your house. If someone robs you at gunpoint, you're in threat level 2, right? So we're basically living in a civilized society where some stuff breaks down and someone's willing to potentially kill someone else over something, and definitely definitely cause great pain or maim someone or have some kind of life-changing injury come from this. So that's threat level 2. Threat level 3 is what I'd consider the highest threat level, and that's where we're no longer playing by any kind of social dictates at all. So in threat level 3, it's an end of the world kind of situation, right? So it's what war is, right? So when soldiers are fighting on the battlefield, this is what it is. We're not really worrying about any kind of laws playing out, and I know we live in a political world where we should always be kind of worrying about that. But truth is, there's been a breakdown of society, and so we're doing some heinous stuff, right? So, and that's exactly what happens in war. There are two countries, and they have a dispute, and so they're no longer obeying any laws anymore, and they just go at each other until they solve their dispute, whether it be over land or whatever it is. If there was a end of the world, shit hit the fan kind of situation, that's also threat level 3, right? Where society's broke down, and so you're doing whatever you can. This is a high likelihood that there's going to be some life-taking, and your life's highly endangered. Now, understanding these 4 basic ideas is really important, because when you want to know if a martial art's effective, you have to know what you're asking it to be effective at. So these 4 threat levels are where you start with that, right? So if your threat level is simply conflict play, something like boxing is probably a little intense for conflict play, right? Where something like wrestling probably works pretty good. You can hold someone, kind of, show them something. But hitting someone really hard, which is what you learn to do in boxing, and conflict play is a little out of line, right? So is it effective at that? Probably not really. Definitely something like some kind of knife fighting or stick fighting or something like that has no place in conflict play. However, in threat level 1, at threat level 1, well, boxing is certainly what you want. Boxing and wrestling and the skills you'd find in MMA or something like this, that is exactly what you want in the threat level 1 situation. Threat level 2, we're talking about life-changing, life-altering situations. While boxing and wrestling might help us in that, I really want weapon skills is what I want. I want to have weapon skills, and I want to learn how to hide from people who might be giving me trouble or escape. All this kind of stuff becomes much more important than boxing and wrestling at that. In that stage. When we get into threat level 3, we're talking about a whole nother set of skills, right? We're talking about being able to camouflage yourself and resist all kinds of horrible stuff, and the kinds of stuff that generally soldiers are training for is threat level 3 type stuff. So if you want to know how effective a martial arts system is, you have to ask what kind of threat you're going to be answering. So for example, if you did some kind of SEER training, right? So survive, evade, escape, and resist, or resist and escape. This kind of training is for threat level 3 situations. Is it good for threat level 1? No. A SEER instructor in a boxing ring is no better than anyone else unless he's done boxing, right? If you're asking if something, if you want to do boxing and you're asking how effective is it on a battlefield where everyone's got rifles, well, it's not very effective, right? Boxing's not that great. Could it come in handy sometimes? Sure could, but it's not what you want to be focusing on. So it's important when you're asking how effective a system is to ask what's the threat level. Is someone willing to kill me over this? Is someone just willing to cause me a little pain? Is someone just acting out and there's really nothing big going on? And the threat level assessment will help you start to understand what kind of martial arts you need to study or what kind of self-defense methods you need to be studying in order to get an effective result, to get a good result. So I'm Chris Hein. I hope this was helpful to you guys, and we'll be seeing you soon.